Good morning, everyone. We are going to present a PowerPoint on Smarter Balance. We're going to give you Smarter Balance Assessment Overview and kind of step you through some of the changes, what the test will be looking like. And if you've got third graders, they're in the midst of it right now. And we'll talk about some of the things to expect, or at least what I'll say, what we know at this moment, what to expect. There are many things we don't have exactly tied down with the bow. We'll waiting for the state. All right.
And just as a little explanation for those of you that may not have third graders, the reason we started with third grade was because there is a piece of legislation that says that any child that ends up performing at a level 1 in third grade needs a parent conference and a talk about what are we going to do about all that. And in order to get that done, we needed to start them early so we could get those results back. So the rest of you will have kids that start a little closer to the end of the month. But our third graders are our valiant guinea pigs right now, and they are meeting the challenge, I can assure you.
So the Smarter Balance Assessment System, it's really designed to give teachers and students more timely and ongoing information to make sure that the students are meeting the Common Core state standards in English, language arts, and mathematics. And the students who perform well on Smarter Balance assessments show that they're ready to leave high school, career, and college ready, and that's really the new goal. So it's not just meet grad requirements, a proficiency level. It's really about are our students going to be career, college ready?
Sure. The Formative Educator Resources is a great digital library with instructional and professional learning resources that include embedded formative assessments. And formative assessments are those assessments that teachers do in the moment. So here's what I taught. I want to see if the child learned it. I give an assessment that informs my instruction, and I see that most of my kids did and a few didn't, so I know I've got to work with this group as well as move this group beyond. But these formative assessments line up with what they're going to need to be able to do on the big assessment with Smarter Balance. So it's all in line and really helps teachers predict how kids are being prepared for the eventual measure of performance. Excuse me.
And it's a growing resource, so it's because it is a library, teachers are able to get into this library and get a variety of assessments throughout the year. The next piece that we have for the Smarter Balance assessment are the interim assessments, and they're also used for additional feedback. So teachers can use the formative resources, and then they can do interim assessments that really provide checkpoints along the year. So we already do it with our IRRs in our elementary schools to check reading levels and proficiency and how students are doing, but this is going to give us another resource to be able to do some checkpoints along the way in English language arts and then also mathematics. And then the big, Smarter Balance assessment is really that summative piece. Third graders right now are in the middle of it. As Kathleen said, at the end of April, we'll start with the rest of the grade levels and move them forward, and we'll be getting scores for those students. Supposedly within 3 weeks after the tests are taken and the information sent in. I say supposedly. All right. So the summative assessments, there's actually two parts. The first part is called the Computer Adaptive Testing, or CAT. And what happens is that the items can get easier or harder depending on how well the student is doing. So based on the response. And we were talking to, Lydia Selly, our Executive Director of Finance, she was in with her third grade daughter, Bryn, this year, and just this week. And Bryn said to Larry Francois, the superintendent, man, that's hard. It was a hard test. And what Larry said was, well, you must be you must have been getting them right. Because what happens is they'll progressively get more challenging the more you get your answers correct, right, your responses. So multiple choice, short written answer in this part, and then there's a performance task.
So the performance tests are complex. They have multiple parts, and they have extended written responses. They're also scripted, so the teacher sets up the performance task for the kids, and then they do it in real time. Okay? So it really is about performing in the moment with a scripted classroom activity that then the kids have to respond to. And you'll see some examples as we go.
So how we receive the information for these scores, how are the scores going to be reported? We're going to move away from it. If you've been in the MIST, in the WASL system, it's always been 100, 200, 300, 400, that system. We're moving to a little bit away. It's going to be a 4-digit number, and the scores are going to range between 2,000 and 3,000. And what's interesting about these scores is that they're going to provide achievement scores, and they're also going to be able to give us growth information. So that for individual students as well as group of students, and they'll be on a vertical scale, and they can be compared year to year. And that's the good part, because that's something that we've missed with the WASL and the HISP and the course and the MIST. It's always been just one point in time, a big group, and then we move on. But with this, we'll be able to see student growth, so it'll really be more fine-grained.
Mm-hmm. It's a much more comprehensive look at the kids, and can be used for both looking at an individual, and then as a district, and we'll talk about this in a minute, we can disaggregate the data and get a sense of how many third graders are where they need to be in terms of performance as well. That was all we could do with the MSP virtually. This gives a much broader look at the individual, and part of that, as we said, is if the test is calibrated in a way that it gets harder the more you answer, you're going to end up with a different kind of report than kids who kind of topped out in a spot and had easier questions to answer. And it'll just give us great information, we hope.
So
That's the idea.
Yeah, that's the idea. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
We'll have the students in levels of achievement as we do now, as you're used to. 1, 2, 3, 4. So even though the scores are 2,000 to 3,000 range, it's a level 1, a level 2, a level 3, and a level 4. And the descriptors are novice, developing, proficient, and advanced. So that took a bit of work to get those descriptors where everybody was in agreement with it, but those will be for each level: novice for level 1, developing for 2, proficient, and then advanced. And it's the levels, if you think about it, they're familiar to us. We've been in this system for so long. We get level 1, level 4, and also it's required by the federal government and the lead No Child Left Behind. Okay. However, it's a new test, right? New baseline. Can't compare it to, there's no way of comparing it to the HISP or the MIST or the end of course. So we'll have a new baseline of student performance starting next year, which means, and so a lot of folks are worried about, oh my gosh, they're going to fall off the performance cliff. We hear this all the time. And what we just have to remember is, because it's a new test, you don't compare it to what we had before. It's just not the same, and I think we had a principal name it really well.
Yeah, May Pelto over at Crystal Springs, we were there for a SIP visit, and she said it's not apples and oranges, it's apples and spaceships, right? I mean, it's not in the same fruit category at all. They're very different. So it will be a temptation, I think, from parents. I certainly would do the same thing with, okay, my child used to be at a level 4, now he's at a level 3, oh my gosh, he must have done some, we've got a problem here. No, completely different measurement. Right. Important to remember.
Just really important to remember that our students are, it's a new test, it's online, it's got the summative, it's got the CAT part with the adaptive, and it's got performance tasks. We've never had performance tests like that before. So we may see some differences, and I think that's part of what we need to realize and be prepared for. And for the first time, I have to say, high school is online. They've not had an online test before. It's 3rd through 8th grade have been doing the MIST online, but not high school. So this is going to be a first for everyone, that all their assessments are going to be online. So the state has been doing some really great messaging around, about Smarter Balance, and letting us know that it's a new target with new results. New target, because the Common Core state standards are at a higher level. We're talking about career and college readiness. We're not talking about proficiency, baseline proficiency. Got to remember, so if we're talking career and college readiness, everybody's moving up. We're all trying to get to higher standards at each level. So it's kind of like, I did pretty good at Mount Rainier, and I climbed it successfully. I might find Mount McKinley just a little more challenging, right? Some of our students will be able to meet that challenge. Some will be close. Some who could summit Mount Rainier aren't going to be able to summit Mount McKinley on the first try, at first. And I think that's the part we need to remember, because it's brand new, and we've got new baselines, and we're teaching to new standards that are more rigorous, higher level, and we've got a different kind of test. It may take us a little bit to reach the top of Mount McKinley. Okay?
Yeah.
So, I guess I'll say luckily. Luckily, other states have tried this before us and have been in the Smarter Balance assessment for a bit. And this is information from 21 states who field tested and have been pushing forward with Smarter Balance. And I think it's good to look at what the expectation is, that the performance prediction, we're used to 80 to 90%, really top 80, 90, 92, 93% of our students meeting or exceeding standard in English language arts, and that's what this is, ELA. And there's predicting that the first year that we'll only see perhaps 38%. That's the prediction based on the information and the field testing for the other states. It's not that, oh my gosh, we've gotten, we've failed, we've gotten dumber, what happened? It's new test, new baseline. So it always takes a little bit to move forward. So more basic and, more novice and developing, and less proficient and advanced. And that's just the prediction that what Smarter Balance is saying by looking at the research, or I should say looking at the data from the 21 states who have gone before us. And in math, about the same-ish, right? So heads up, we've been trying to share this message because I think it is important for us to first time is always the most challenging, as we're all getting used to a new system. And just taking you back in the Wayback Machine, when we were presenting this to principals a month ago, we were talking to them about, well, remember when we first gave the WASL, and then we were looking out at them and we said, well, remember when you were a student?
Taking the WASL, because they're younger than we are.
Yeah, it was a painful realization,
moment, yes.
just a moment, but pain. But you might have been a 4th grader when the WASL came out, or a 7th grader or a 10th grader, but that first year in reading, we weren't where we're at right now. It did take a while for us to move forward and get to the levels that we're at now, which is over 80% of our students meeting standard. And at the 10th grade high school level, we're, by the time they graduate, we have probably 96% meeting the reading standard. And writing the same. Really, that first year of the WASL was our baseline year of, oh my goodness, now we've, so this is what it means, right? And we're always, even as much as we prepare and teach to the standards, the curriculum, as Kit was saying, the standards are what we want students to learn and be able to do. How teachers get students there. They use a variety of curriculum, a variety of materials, and oftentimes that lags behind the standards.
I would add, though, that over the last several years we have adopted curriculum, and one of our filters for adopting that curriculum was how well does it align to the Common Core state standards, because we knew this was coming and we wanted to make sure we gave teachers the materials that they needed. However, there is an adjustment as teachers get used to new standards when they've been teaching to the prior ones. Now this is, wow, this is really here, and those are the standards, and there's been some growth along that path, but we have been preparing for a little while.
Right, we've been doing a lot of professional development for our teachers. So if you look at the Smarter Balance estimates for Washington State, this is what they're saying, and so you can see pretty comparable for, if you want to think, by not comparing, you can still say pretty comparable of about the same range for a baseline, okay? So what's the impact on high school graduation, and which is a kind of a grad requirement, and that's a question out there. And the State Board of Education, which is our state level group that's really looking at the grad requirements and all of this, they're determining two different cut scores, which is important. One's going to be the career college readiness, which is the 11th grade score saying you are ready to go out there and you will be, ready for a career or college. And the other one's for high school graduation, because if you don't have a student yet in the high school range, they right now being able to graduate and get your diploma is dependent on passing the HISP or the end of course exam. So either they've got to have two different scores, one that the feds want, the federal government, with the career college readiness, 11th grade, and one with the 10th grade, or they have to uncouple, and that it uncouple state testing from grad requirements.
Do you have a question?
I have a question about that. 11th grade they're already taking ACT, SAT,
Yep.
AP. Now we're doing another one?
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
why 11th grade and why are we adding one more test?
Well, because the Fed said so.
Well, yeah, I get that.
And we want
but-
our money, which is, one of these tests will go away. The 10th grade will go away. And if you say you got to be career and college ready, you actually need more years of study because they are getting more rigorous. So if I have it in 10th grade, it's not the same as being that. So that's why. And I'll show you I think I've got the slide that's pretty cool. But so hang on to that and let's see if I can.
Well, and also, I would just add that the universities are the group that require those other tests that you mentioned, and there is potential that they would use this instead of SAT, etc. I'm sorry. Sometimes we do better than others. Okay, so go with your slide.
That's right. And the other thing I'd say is that there are some colleges that are not even, they're not looking at SAT scores or ACT. So that there is a big, there's a lot going on at the university level of really, do we even need SAT or ACT, because they're finding that those tests to be really skewed to a specific population, and there are
They're not a good indicator of whether or not they're going to succeed in college.
exactly.
They're finding that high school grades,
Yes.
the trajectory of a student's high school grades are much more indicative of whether or not they're going to succeed in
Exactly.
college.
Especially in higher
Right,
level courses.
Yeah.
especially in higher level courses.
So, sorry, if this test does, the colleges will see this test?
Uh-huh.
So if you anticipate that in the first year, students aren't going to perform very well, does that impact an 11th grader's ability to get into?
Well, for the current 11th grader, right now, what they need to do is pass the history. That's why they're being double tested.
What
So,
about next year though?
just stay tuned. Oh, Sherry's got an answer. Sherry.
I spoke with Robin Munson at OSPI about this question, and the score of the Smarter Balance will not go on the student's transcript. What goes on the transcript is whether they get a certificate of academic achievement or a certificate of individual achievement. And the certificate of academic achievement is the one that the colleges will pick up as the child being career college ready.
So I'll show you. Let me do one more. Let me do one more thing. So hang on.
Got her
So,
slide.
I do.
Her slide.
So if we had to do two cut scores, let's say one's going to be for that current college readiness, that look at me, I'm really hit the mark, and the other one is the performance level that says that would be tied to our state requirement of passing a state test for a graduate, in order to graduate and get your diploma. So that's a different level. That's at a minimal proficiency standard. And what the State Board of Ed has to do is constantly look at those two scores, and they'll have to make adjustments as students get better. So that's the goal when we get there. But there's also things afoot to uncouple graduation from the test, which that's only at the legislative level, and they're the only ones who can do it. So some key points to remember, and I think it's my third bullet. That's where I've been wanting to go. And that is, one thing to realize is that standards do change over time. Every 5 to 7 years, we're looking at the standards, and then if you look at the standards, it means you have to change the assessments and look at those as well. So we have to look at those. The careers are changing, what universities want, what the career, what the career trajectory is changing, and always we need to be thinking and reviewing our standards and our assessments. And the new standards, it's a higher bar. So when we say college and career readiness, it's higher bar than high school proficiency. And I think that's key. And here's where the Washington State colleges and universities are already in agreement and alignment. So if students get a level 3 or 4 on the Smarter Balance, then they can enroll in a college level course in all the Washington State colleges and universities without taking a placement test. And that's huge. That's the good news. And then student growth information will now be available in addition to achievement levels. So that's the other good news. We'll get to see where the student growth is year by year, and it'll be a stair step. Okay, did I help?
So my only follow-up question is then, if a student in this first year or the second year, when everything's sort of the baseline is lower, but students may perform at a lower level, if they get a level 2, let's say not that level 3, they could still take placement tests to get into those colleges?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, the colleges, universities haven't, to the best of my knowledge,
Done away with placement tests.
Sure.
Right.
yet.
Anna?
I do have a question. So and I'm not at the high school level yet, so college level classes, are we talking about Running Start, college in the high school, AP?
100 level courses in college.
Or more, or if you go to a Washington State College as a college freshman, there are a lot of colleges in the states that ask you to take a placement test so they
See where
confirm
you're at.
where you
Correct.
should start
Right.
college.
Right.
So you're not going to need remedial courses
Right.
Got it.
by and large.
Or you're not going to have to take a placement test in math
Right.
to decide, do I go in math 101
Got it. Okay.
or 105 or 108, or where
Which
do I
can be a
go?
big burden over the summer.
Yes.
Right.
Or 95, worse yet. Sherry?
I'd just like to share that currently the statistics in our state are that 57% of our kids going on for post-secondary education require remediation. So this is to get away from that, so that we're not wasting money on something that was supposed to be provided in their public education.
Not that that's not North Shore, that's Washington State. Can't be on.
Yeah, that's been the.
Okay, so where do we get more information? So now we get to be interactive pretty soon, okay? So this is a big group. And I'll just say, as Leanna said, you'll get to, we'll probably need you to do a couple folks on a computer. That's not how our kids get it, all right? So lucky, you'll get to share. You'll get to share and maybe work together, but we're going to give you a chance to try some practice tests. But the question is, well, where would I go? So you go to our website, and there's a couple ways you can do it. You can go to the academics and programs on our main website, and there will be a title, Smarter Balance Assessment Overview. And then you click on it, and you'll get the cute little hat. This is actually a live video, so you can listen. And then you'll see all the information on the left-hand side that we've got on the website. And if you clicked on, well, let's go back, Carolyn. So if you clicked on, I clicked on Parent Resources here. Then this will pop up. If I click there, take a practice test, that'll take you to the state Smarter, I think it's ReadyLaw has all the information. Oh, it's the portal. It is the assessment portal. So then once you click there, take a practice test, boom, you come to this page. If you click that, and we'll walk you through it so you can get there. Here's the page you'd see. And again, there's Student Family Resources, but if you said, I'd like to see what that test is all about, bazam, that's what you hit. And you'll come in as a guest. And what I keep forgetting, and I'll show you this when we get online, you have to say what grade level you're at. Because I just like okay, I'm a guest, and then I click on the button that says submit, and then it says, hello, what grade do you want? And you really do need to pick the grade level. And then you get to choose math or ELA, English Language Arts. And that will be your choice. I must admit that I have gone on to look at the map, and there's at the middle grades, like 6, 7, 8, and look, they want you to get a tool, and when you do some work, actual work with an online digital tool, which is quite fascinating.